So today we're going to talk about dividing rational numbers. So a multiplicative inverse or a multiplicative reciprocal is simply two numbers when you multiply them, their product, their answer, is equal to 1. So for example, we've got 7/16. I want to know what is the multiplicative reciprocal. So if I have 7/16, the reciprocal is just kind of like the flip-flop. You take the fraction and you reverse it, inverse it I should say. You flip it so where it says 16/7, and if you multiply those out, you get 112 over 112, and 112 divided by 112 is simply 1. Alright? Same thing with part B, -6 1/3. You've got to change that to an improper fraction. So if I take 6 times 3, I know it's going to be negative, so 6 times 3 is 18, add it to 1, I've got 19 over 3. So now, what is the inverse of negative 19 over 3? Well, if it's equal to 1, it's still going to be a negative, because a negative times a negative is a positive, and I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to flip it and have it be -3/19. I could multiply these out, or I could simply say 19 is a factor of 19, those are going to be 1. 3 is a factor of 3, those are going to be 1. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 divided by 1 is 1. So the reciprocal is just taking that fraction and flipping it. So to divide a fraction, you need to multiply by its multiplicative inverse, and we're going to spend a lot of time tomorrow. I'm going to show you why this actually works, but today I'm just going to do the math with you. So for example, I've got 4/9 divided by 3/5. I'm going to take that first number, I'm going to keep 4/9, and you're going to multiply. You're going to keep the first fraction, you're going to change the division to multiplication, and you're going to flip it. You're going to multiply by the inverse, 5/3 instead of 3/5. Again, tomorrow I'm going to show you why this works, but today I just want to do the straight math. And then multiplying fractions, just multiply straight across. 4 times 5 is 20. 9 times 3 is 27. If you run through your head of all the factors to simplify this fraction is in fact simplified. You don't need to do anything else to it. Same thing for B, 3/7 divided by 8. We're going to keep that first fraction. You're going to change your division to multiplication. And then we're going to flip that fraction of 8. Now some of you might be saying, oh, that's not a fraction. Yes, it is. Remember, 8, the fraction of 8 is 8/1. So what's the reciprocal of 8/1? It's going to be 1/8. And then multiply straight across. 3 times 1 is 3. 7 times 8 is 56. And 56, 3 does not go into 56, so that fraction is also simplified. Alright, dividing mixed numbers. You need to rename the mixed numbers as improper fractions, and as I've said before, an improper fraction is not a wrong fraction. Improper fractions are just fine to use and work with. So, for some reason, I don't know why my fraction isn't coming up here, but our example is -4 2/3 divided by 3n, and should be 1/9. So let me just write that in. So the very first thing we need to do is we need to change these to improper fractions. So let's see, this is going to become, it's going to be negative. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2. That's going to give us 14 all over 3. And then what it's really saying is dividing by, sorry, it's a bad division, 3 1/9. So change that to an improper fraction. 9 times 3 is 27, plus 1 is 28. And now we can divide. So we've got -14 thirds. We're going to keep the first fraction, change division to multiplication, and we're going to use the reciprocal, 9 over 28. So when we multiply that out, instead of getting these really large numbers, I can see factors. I know that 3 goes into 9 3 times, and if you take 14 and double it, you get 28, so 14 is a factor of 28. And so now I can just multiply. I know a negative times a positive is a negative. 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 2 is 2. It's negative 3 halves. If I change that back to a mixed number, 3 divided by 2, 2 goes into 3 one time. Some of you guys might already know what it is. And I've got 1 and 1/2. And don't forget, it's a negative. If some of you guys wanted to multiply 14 by 9 and multiply 3 by 28 and get that big number and then reduce that fraction, go for it. If that's what works for you, go for it. But it's going to be a little bit easier if you can simplify the factors before you multiply. Alright, and then where would you ever use this outside the classroom door? Here's an example. Tessa feeds her dog Roscoe 3 3/4 cups of dog food per day. If she buys a bag of food that contains 165 cups, how many days will the bag of food last? So what that is saying is you've got 160, oh, sorry, just a second. Didn't have my pen up. Alright, so what that's saying is if you have 165 days, you want to know how many times the 3 3/4 goes into those 165 days. So it's going to be 165 divided by 3 3/4. Change it to an improper fraction, and I'm going to take 165 and make that a fraction as well. Put it over 1. And it's going to be divided by 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15 over 4. And now I'm just going to work over to the right. 165 over 1. Keep the first one. Change to multiplication. And then flip my last fraction. Use the reciprocal. Alright. And I know that I can take 15 divided by 15 and get 1, and 15 divided by 165 and get 11, actually. So now I can multiply. I've reduced those. So now 11 times 4 is 44. 1 times 1 is 1, and look how easy that is. 44 divided by 1, it's going to give me 44 days as my answer. Whoops. Now that looks like 441. 1 second. Alright, I fixed it up a little bit. So we've got 44 days that bag of food will last. Alright, the last thing we have today is algebraic expressions. And again, this is kind of big. I want to give you a brief overview, but we're really going to be working with this in class. But I want you to make sure that you see it before I bring it up. So, find 5 over 3ab divided by 15 over abc. So write the quotient in simplest form. Write your answer in simplest form. If you notice, nothing is getting substituted in for A, B, or C. So if we just write this out, okay, it's going to be 5 over 3AB. Keep our first fraction. Change division to multiplication and do the reciprocal. So it's ABC over 15. All right, I want to multiply this. I want you to see what happens. So I'll just do it straight across here. So 5 times ABC is just 5ABC all over. Now multiply your numbers. We've done this before. 3 times 15 is 45. And it's 45AB. You can simplify this. Let's take your numbers first. We got 5 and 45. 5 goes into 45 9 times. So our fraction is going to be 1 over 9. Now look at your letters. Do you see anything that repeats? A divided by A is simply 1. And b divided by b is 1. b goes into b 1 times. And then we've got the c that doesn't go into anything, so that's going to stay. All right, again, we are going to talk about this, well, everything tomorrow, but we're going to get into this a lot as well. Don't be nervous about it. It's just dividing the letters out, and you'll see that they cancel each other out. They make a 1. All right, so your answer would be 1c over 9. All right, I will see you tomorrow.